Welcome to Solar Oregon's How to Go Solar and Storage Workshop. My name is Nicole and I am a program manager at Solar Oregon. This is a reoccurring workshop that we have been delivering to home and business owners across our state for years. And we do this to provide you as a consumer with the information you need to make good and informed choices about solar and storage. So thank you all for spending your evening with us. A little bit more about the agenda today. We'll be covering how solar works and just looking at the basic components in a system. We'll talk about what it means to be a grid-tied system. We'll also look at aspects that can impact your ability to go solar, as well as current incentives. We'll also talk about battery storage and how you can get started with finding a contractor. For today's workshop, please put any questions you have in the Q&A box. We'll be using the chat to post those helpful links. And if you post questions there, we might miss them. So just be sure to put any questions you have in the Q&A. And just to see where you all are joining from today, we're going to run a few polls. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we've worked to encourage solar and storage adoption throughout the state since 1979. We do this by providing reliable and impartial consumer education like this workshop. We also work to build a clean energy community and perform outreach and some policy advocacy. Other examples of the work we do are our Go Zero Tour, which we just had this last weekend. And we have homes across the state who have gone solar and also implemented other energy efficiency measures. And they've shared a little bit about how they've done that. And so that event did wrap, but we are going to be sharing on our website the virtual site that has the links to all the host videos of the different homeowners that shared their homes for the tour. And so that'll be getting added to our website, and you can check that out there. We have another annual event coming up in December. We'll have our annual member meeting. And this is also a great place to connect with other solar enthusiasts. So keep an eye out for that event coming in December. And then I'm just going to repost those helpful links in the chat as links to our website and also other helpful resources. This workshop series is supported by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust is an independent nonprofit that was established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of the investor-owned utilities in our state to use energy efficiently and gain access to renewable energy. They offer key incentives for solar as well as for battery storage. So thank you, Energy Trust. And for more information, you can check out their website at energytrust.org, and that is included in the helpful links that are in the chat. So without further delay, we're going to jump right into how solar works. So here is a diagram of a typical grid-tied system. And so grid-tied system means that you are still connected to your local utility grid as opposed to being an off-grid solar system. And you can see here some of the typical system components in a grid-tied system. You'd have your solar panels. Sometimes they'll be called photovoltaic panels or PV panels. And then you will also need a special piece of equipment called an inverter or microinverter. And what that'll do is convert the voltage of electricity that's produced in your solar panel to the type of electricity that your home uses. And so then that electricity can flow to your electrical panel and to the outlets and appliances in your home. If you do have a grid-tied system, you'll also get a special new utility meter that is a bidirectional meter, and it'll measure the flow of electricity that you pull from the grid. Since you still are connected to the grid, you can pull from it in times when your solar's not producing enough. As well as that bidirectional meter will measure the flow of electricity out from your home and to the grid. So anytime you're producing excess electricity that your home is not using, and it'll measure that on that meter. and your bill will look a little bit different and show that exported electricity as well as any electricity you draw from the grid. We have a special agreement in our state called net metering, and net metering allows you to gain credit for the electricity that you export to the grid. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. Here's a closer look at those inverters or microinverters. Both these types of inverters do work. It just will depend on the needs of your system and also could depend on the equipment that your solar installer uses. So it's helpful to get, when you're looking to install solar, at least 3 quotes so you can compare these different pieces of equipment and the cost, and so that you can make sure you're choosing the right system that best suits your needs. Your panel might need to be upgraded if you have an older electrical panel, or if you might be increasing your electric consumption by adding other appliances that use electricity or EVs. So that's something to keep in mind too as you go on your solar journey, just to know that if you do have an older electrical panel, that might need to be upgraded. Pretty common to see roof-mounted solar in metropolitan areas. There's also another option called ground mount solar. And so both of these do work. You do need a significant amount of land to ground mount some solar. Whereas if you're roof mounting, you can just use the roof that you have. And so ground mounting can cost a little bit more just because you're going to be running that conduit further from your electric panel. And as mentioned earlier, this is a closer look at net metering with some graphs. So again, net metering is that process that allows you to account for the energy you export so you can gain credit for it. And you gain credit for it on your bill. So you don't get like a check or something like that. The credit will actually show in a year-to-date bank on your bill of the amount of kilowatt hours that you have in that bank. So let's illustrate how net metering works with 2 example graphs. The first graph is showing what it might look like in the summer. So the orange bar is showing how much your solar system might produce in a sunny summer month. And the blue bar is showing how much your home might consume. And so if you're producing more than you're consuming, that little green arrow shows that you have net metering credit earned for the energy that you export to the grid. In the winter, you're going to be getting less solar access, so you might need to draw from the grid. And that's illustrated with the red arrow showing that you might be consuming more than you produce, so you'd be able to pull from the grid. This example bill here shows what net metering would look like on your bill. So you can see the service period, your net consumption meter reading, and your excess generation meter reading. In this example, the homeowner actually produced more than they consumed. So they had 327 kilowatt hours that they exported to the grid, and that will be added to their year-to-date bank. Since they produced more than they used, they didn't have to draw from the grid. They had 0 billable kilowatt hours for this bill. That doesn't mean that your bill will be 0. If you are grid tied, you still pay to be connected to the grid. And those charges are about $12 to $18 per month. And months that you would need to pull from the grid, you would see that billable kilowatt hour go up from 0 if you don't have any year-to-date banked excess generation kilowatt hours that you can pull from. So it's important to consider your consumption and size your system to match the needs of your home. So how much energy you use is going to impact the size of your system. Also, how much available space you have. And the average size system in Oregon is 8 kilowatts. And so your solar system size is measured in kilowatts. Batteries are measured in kilowatt hours. So you'll see when batteries show what type of capacity they have for home battery storage, they'll be measured in kilowatt hours. Now that we looked at some of the basics of how solar works, we're going to jump right into factors that can impact your ability to go solar. So regardless of your location in the state, you need to have solar access to have solar. So that's how much sun can access your solar panels. Usually south-facing roofs are ideal for solar. However, both west and east-facing roofs can work great. If you are in cloudier parts of the state, the roofs facing due east can be slightly less effective. And then north-facing roofs tend to be too shaded to install solar. So even if you have a perfectly south-facing roof, you might have shade from other objects like trees um, or other buildings. And so if that's the case, and you don't have enough solar access, if you have another building on property, you could see the solar access of that building. Or if you have available land, see if you can do ground-mounted solar as an option. And if that's not the case, or if you rent, you can consider community solar. And community solar is where you would subscribe to a solar system that is not on your property, so that you can still partake in solar. And there's different programs in the state, and those links in the chat have some information about community solar if that's something you would like to check out. One of the biggest factors that can affect whether you are able to go solar is your roof condition. So your roof will need to be replaced when it reaches the end of its life, which means if you have solar on your roof, you would have to uninstall those panels to replace your roof and then reinstall the panels. So typical solar panels last about 20 to 25 years, and some even longer. So it's really helpful to match the life of your roof with your panels so you can avoid that deinstallation cost. And solar works with many different types of roofs. Um, it just might be different mounting systems that are used. Most contractors have a requirement that you have to have at least 10 plus years of roof life left in order to install solar. If you expect to be needing to re-roof, you could wait till you re-roof and then install your solar after you've re-roofed so that that life of the roof is matching more closely to the life of the panels. If you have a very complex roof, that can impact your ability to go solar, or can impact the cost if you have a very steep roof. What's under your roof or the roof structure can also be a factor when considering solar, as there are certain code requirements that need to be met to do that install of panels on your roof. Now that we've looked at solar and some of the factors that can impact your ability to go solar, we're going to jump right into home battery storage. It's important to know that your solar by itself does not allow you to use solar electricity when there is an outage. To do this, you would need to add a battery, and this ability to use power when the grid is down is called energy resilience. So solar and battery storage are complementary technologies. They make each other more efficient, and your battery can allow you to access your solar independently from the grid. Power outages vary in their causes and frequency and duration. So if you're thinking about adding a battery to help with your energy resilience, it's important to think about what type of outage you're expecting or planning for. When choosing a battery, there are many options. Some installers may specialize in different brands of batteries due to manufacturer certifications or warranties. And so again, getting at least 3 quotes, you can compare some different types of equipment for your solar system. But when you are making that comparison, be sure to compare the things that are similar. So if you had a quote without a battery and the quote with a battery, obviously that quote without a battery is going to be a lot cheaper. So yeah, 3 quotes is great. And then just be sure you're taking your time to review and make those comparisons so you can choose a system that is right for you. Most batteries range from 10 to 14 kilowatt hours, or kWh. There are smaller modules and even larger modules. In Oregon, the average battery size is about 13.5 kilowatt hours, and sometimes people will get multiple batteries. It is very important to set your expectations properly about what a battery can do, what it cannot do. So even if you don't use a lot of electricity, a single battery won't back up your entire home for a very long time. So you can do a partial backup. And so that's where you decide on certain circuits in your home to receive power from the battery. And then the rest of the circuits will still lose power during an outage. When you get a partial home backup, the way you divide your home into sections that are backed up and sections that are not is based on the breakers in your electrical panel. You might get a second electrical panel called an essential loads panel, and that will house those circuits that are connected to the battery. There are also some smart options, such as smart electrical panels, where you can replace your existing electrical panel with that instead of adding a second panel. There's also smart breakers, so there's some options if you need to make an update to your electrical panel. Battery sizing processes should consider two main questions. One is what needs power and for how long. It's common for people to choose to back up a refrigerator to keep food from spoiling, lights in a common area, and a couple of outlets so they can charge laptops, cell phones, and other electronic devices. All right, so incentives. Incentives do change frequently depending on policy, funding, and availability. The ITC is a dollar for dollar tax credit. I mean, you could reduce the taxes you owe by 30% of the cost of your solar and battery storage installation. And this is an incentive that you would get when you apply for your taxes. This is ending at the end of this year. So your system would need to be completed before or by December 31st of this year. And many contractors have filled up. It is possible still to connect with a contractor, but very important if you're really relying on this investment tax credit that you ask them about timelines and make sure that those have clear expectations, because if your system is completed after the end of this year, you would not be able to claim the tax credit. We're not tax professionals here. We just want to share this information to you for educational purposes. Currently, the ITC does cover the cost of both solar and battery storage, and it applies to solar panels as well as solar shingles. The incentive is straightforward and easy to claim, but it is helpful to ask a tax professional that you trust to help you when making any complex tax filings, just to make sure that you are claiming it correctly. There are some misconceptions about the federal tax credit, or ITC, and most commonly is that re-roofing costs can be claimed under this credit, and that is false. So making sure that you're connecting with your tax professional and filing the correct forms if you are trying to claim this credit is helpful. And the credit is ending at the end of this year, so your system would need to be completed by the end of this year. There's also Energy Trust of Oregon incentives that are available for both solar and storage. If you're a PGE Pacific Power customer, so for PGE customers, you can get a $600 solar tax credit and a $250 per kilowatt hour, up to $3,000 incentive. And these, sorry, are incentives. And so these would be something that your Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor would apply for you. upon your behalf, and you would see that impact your out-of-pocket cost. Whereas that federal tax credit, or ITC, is something that you would file when you do your taxes, and it would less the taxes you owe. So these incentives, again, would be something that would impact your out-of-pocket for the Energy Trust incentives. Here you can see the standard incentives for solar and storage for both Portland General Electric customers and Pacific Power customers. There's also an additional income qualified incentive and called Solar Within Reach. And so you can check that out on Energy Trust website to see if you're eligible. But here you can see a quick table of the household size and the annual income maximum. And this would also be something that your Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor would apply for upon your behalf. They have a list of pre-vetted contractors for solar and storage who tend to be more local, and they are authorized to offer these tax credits. And we'll talk about that a little later in the presentation. So costs can vary for solar because it's highly customizable and systems look very different depending on the equipment used and how it's designed. So the system size and design can impact the cost, re-roofing and electrical upgrades if that's needed for your home to go solar. That can impact the cost. If you install storage to an existing solar system or add it later, that can impact your cost, as parts of your system might need to be reconfigured or updated before that home battery storage is added. And then your access to incentives is going to impact the cost. So those Energy Trust standard incentives, as well as Solar Within Reach, would impact your out-of-pocket. And that federal tax credit is something you would apply for when you do your taxes. Interconnection. If you are a grid-tied system, there's an interconnection application and fee, and that can depend on where you're located and what part of the grid you're connected to, so that can also impact your cost. Here's an example budget, assuming an 8 kilowatt system in the middle column. So if you're just looking to add solar, an 8 kW solar system, your cost might be something around $32,000. And then if you're able to access that Energy Trust standard incentive for the $600, that would impact your out-of-pocket cost. And then as long as your system is complete before the end of the year, you can apply for the investment tax credit when you file your taxes. And so that can, as you can see, if you stack those incentives and the tax credit, can help reduce your system costs by about $10,000. In the last column, if you were to get solar plus storage, and again, just an 8 kilowatt system, and then with one battery, that's 13.5 kilowatt hours, you might be looking at a cost around $52,000. And then Energy Trust has a standard incentive for both solar and storage. And in these examples, these are using if you are a PGE customer numbers. So you can access that $600 for storage. And then for this system, you would hit the max of up to 3,000. So 3,000 plus that 600, you could get off your out-of-pocket. And again, an Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor would have to apply for that upon your behalf. And then if you're able to access the tax credit, you can see that that brings your total down quite significantly. There's also those income qualified incentives that we discussed for Solar Within Reach. So that can help you save additional money and get additional incentives that would impact your out-of-pocket. So it's good to check to see if you qualify, just to make sure that you're accessing most incentives that are available. Because solar and battery storage entail a large upfront cost, many homeowners will utilize financing. Some homeowners will obtain a loan through the bank or credit union, which they already belong and have a relationship with. And that's a good place to start to check. If your bank or credit union doesn't offer loans specifically tailored to solar, your installer might have third-party financing. As with any financial decisions, very important that you read through the contracts and assess your options carefully before making a final decision. Now let's look at how you connect to those trade ally contractors we talked about. So besides offering those incentives for solar and the increased solar within reach incentives, Energy Trust of Oregon also has a certification program for contractors to help ensure that high quality of workmanship. And these trade ally contractors that we talked about previously can help you get access to the Energy Trust incentives. We recommend working with a trade ally contractor as they're pre-vetted, and then also getting at least 3 quotes if you're able so that you can compare and see what option's best for you. If you're looking to get a quote still, you can go to Energy Trust's website. They have a solar bid tool, or you can scan this QR code here. And it's a quick online form that'll connect you to contractors in your area. Once you've selected your contractor and signed your contract, here's what you can expect as your next steps. Your contractor will help complete the paperwork, accept the tax credit. So they will help with the Energy Trust incentive. They'll also help with the permitting, and permitting can vary depending on your location in the state. Multnomah County does have longer times for permitting, but with this year-end deadline, everyone's very aware that folks are trying to get their systems online before the end of the year and trying to work through permitting faster. But it does take time, so that's very good for anyone to note if they're going solar. Installation can take 1 to 4 days. If you have a very simple system, it's usually about 1 to 2. If you're adding a lot of batteries, it could be longer. And then your contractor will manage your inspection and interconnections. And once you're interconnected, you'll be producing solar energy right there at your home or business. Yeah, and we'll just jump right into the Q&A. Before I start looking at the questions, I am going to put those helpful links in the chat again and also run our last poll just to see how we did today so we can keep improving our workshops. And then you could also feel free to reach out to us at info@solaroregon.org if you have more questions that come up as you are navigating your solar journey.